Hey there, I'm Alina Nikishina and I'm a transformational coach. I specialize in subconscious change work, and with me, I have my dear friend and peer, Dana Michelle Gillespie. She is also a coach, and we've actually trained in similar methods together. So, core transformation and wholeness work with Andreas NLP. That's how we met. And Dana also has quite a bit of experience in the energy world. Dana, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience in, yeah, clairvoyant and transmedium and stuff?
Yeah. I'm giggling because I do have a lot of experience in that. I have gone through the full Lewis Boswick clairvoyant training program, just graduating the 5-year transmedium program and moving into the final one-to-one program. So I've been in that world for God, I want to say it's itching closer to 20 years. Yeah, kind of a life calling, and the work has always been for myself because I'm so hypersensitive. But I
Yeah.
love that world, but I also love subconscious change work, and I find that they both work so
Yeah, and
beautifully
that's what we want
together.
to talk about exactly. Because I brought the question to you recently about energy work. I also dabble in some energy work. I receive clinical qigong healings for treatments, and I also have experience with Reiki. I trained in Reiki a while ago. So I was someone asked me the question of, okay, Alina, I have these challenges. Like, let's say I have, I don't know, inner criticism, or I keep undervaluing myself, or like I keep attracting um, these, abusive relationships into my life, or relationships where people don't value me, or something like that, right? I mean, a slew of things, or I have physical health issues. And I heard that I could literally just pay money to an energetic healer, someone who does energy work, and they can basically clear all this stuff for me. And then that's all, I don't have to do anything else, right? So, um, and I was like, can you actually do that, or can you have that? Um, and yeah, that's how I brought up the question to you. And we started a really great back and forth conversation about how that might be true and how maybe it's not so true. And also how all this works with subconscious change work too. Because I know that, since you do a lot of this stuff like on a consistent basis, um, like I'm curious to hear from you. First of all, let's like explore energy work and ask like what it is. Why would you want to hire an energetic healer or like a clairvoyant or transmedium or something like that to help you? And then let's explore subconscious change work, specifically when it comes to me and you, core transformation, the parts work that me and you do, and also wholeness work, um, and how the two are different, like what kinds of different results that they provide, and maybe also how they harmonize together. Like why do you'd want to use them both at the same time? So I know that's a lot of questions that I just threw up in the air, but I'm curious, like,
Okay.
can you tell us a little bit more about like what is energy work and why would someone, yeah, hire an energy work practitioner to help them?
Such a fun, I've been looking at this for a few days, like the definition of energy work. And so my perception personally of, speaking to what is energy work to me is any sort of conscious like shift or change to the energy field. And I say that because, we have this beautiful physical body, but we also have like our consciousness. You could speak to it as your spirit, your soul. But then when you look at all these different kind of ancient cultures, and they'll speak to different energy centers in the body, your chakras, your meridians, your aura field, your, biofield, you have definitely space around you that you feel. And I can even say, like, if you and I sat in meditation and we just started becoming aware of a beautiful tree outside where we were sitting and looking at that awareness, that consciousness can change the energy to an extent. Depending on maybe we're going to send love to the tree, or it kind of helps bring around some sort of shift or change to the energy field. So it doesn't have to just be one person. It could be you're saying hello to an animal or a tree or the world or the universe. And I find that to be a useful kind of perception of what is energy work, is saying hello to that energetic field, but it could be anything. Yeah. So I hope that,
Yeah. Yeah, because we're all energetic beings and everything is energy, right?
yeah, everything's
So
energy.
it's like reading the energy of maybe if you're coming to an energy worker because you have challenges with a certain situation in your life or a certain pattern that you're noticing within yourself. I mean, I don't know. Like for example, let's say that I'm stuck creatively, right? I feel like I have like a creative block or something like that. Like I've been trying to write, but nothing's coming out, or I've been trying to paint and I just don't feel like it or something. I have some kind of resistance, right? And so my understanding is that somebody like you maybe could, if I hired you for like an energetic thing, you could help me read the energy of that resistance or that stuckness or um, the creative drought, as you might say. Is that right? Or
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely, especially if you're working with someone who's gone through, I will keep going back to like the Lewis Boswick style energy work, because there's so much energy work out there now, right? There's Reiki and everyone's trying to be their own thing. So they'll be like, I have this, but it's my take on it and stuff. But coming back to the core teaching of the Lewis work, I find to have really respectful and truthful tools and kind of boundaries. So if someone came to me with that, I'd ask them if they want, a reading on it or if they want a healing on it. Um,
so
and
can you go a little bit into what each is? So like a reading on it, how is that different from a healing?
reading is kind of where you're just saying hello to the energy. And if you're doing the traditional rose reading, a 90-minute reading where you say hello to someone's spiritual path and them as on their spiritual path, it starts kind of clearing out the static. They actually start feeling really seen in a neutral way, and they start just saying hello to the energy, not where if I'm going over and doing a healing, I might actually kind of energetically bring my energy into the space and start touching them and their aura field. Or if I'm going and doing a trance medium healing, I'm going up and out in a very high vibration, almost in a deep trance, and bringing them up with me and really clearing things quickly, which is really useful for trauma and all that stuff and moving things out. And usually when someone's stuck creatively, we're just, when we say hello to things, it starts kind of going into the uh, being drawn into the scientific world of physics and all that stuff, because it's described there too, that consciousness starts moving and opening up the space, so things start to shift and move again. So yes, you could absolutely have that experience, but it doesn't mean someone doesn't leave the session feeling great for a couple of days and all of a sudden they're back where they were again.
Okay. And that's where I get kind of questionable, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what exactly just happened there? Because what I'm hearing you say is that you help move energy, you help clear things, and the person typically feels pretty good at the end of a session, maybe lighter, maybe more at peace, maybe more like themselves. They have a connection to maybe the core of who they really are. Um, I mean, there's a lot of questions there I have, like what are you moving? What are you clearing? What's really happening there? You know?
The energy, I mean, it's going to be always uniquely different every
Yeah.
time you say hello to somebody, but I would generally say you start to shift. But those same, like the programmings and the patternings that we developed, I mean, depending on how you want to look at it, maybe we came in with them, there's a combination of all of it, right? This perfect synchronicity, but we have all of this programming of that's and identities of makes us who we are, and it's how we have consciously and unconsciously become who we are. So you go and get all this beautiful space and you might feel good for a couple of days and maybe a little bit more free, but then you go back into your regular day-to-day life with all your interactions and you start your so many of your anchor points of how you know to relate with people or people how they know to relate to you, how they're used to, come back in. So you may have a little bit more space and maybe you have a couple of weeks where you feel so great, but still the core of who you are is still there, especially if you're receiving a healing. So that's why, and when people, through, I keep going back and I want to say like the Lewis Boswick style energy work schools, if someone seems very interested in this work and they keep receiving healings and readings, and it's usually a teacher will say, hey, you might actually like to learn these basic tools yourself. Come to like a complimentary, meditation class because it's kind of like if someone's helping you walk everywhere in life, you're stuck with that person, right? You can't walk if you don't know how to walk. Someone's helping you walk. How do you walk by yourself if they're walking? If you're walking you everywhere, you're very limited. So, energy work, could be a great way for someone to get a little bit space and clarity, and it might be enough for them to be like, hey, you know what? Because I don't have anyone's answers. I don't have your answers. You don't have my answers. I can hold space for you, but you have your own answers. And that's that space that we're each, I believe, trying to get to. And I don't want to be someone's guru.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. So you're saying opening up space, and that's kind of what I was sharing with you about my experience with energy work is that I call it like it illuminates the path, or it kind of just clears the air. Like if there's a fog, it clears the fog. So maybe that I can see a little bit more clearly and I have more connection to um typically, if I experience some kind of energetic healing session, I can sense that my nervous system calms, and you know, scientifically, this is proven. Like when our nervous system is calm, and we are in safe and connected, nervous system response, basically, we can have more access to things like creative thinking, logical thinking, strategic thinking. So basically, sometimes if we are in fight or flight or freeze or going through a period of chronic stress or chronic pain, we actually lose access to certain regions of our brain that allow us to do all these things like be compassionate, be at peace, be creative, be so maybe I could see how an energetic healing could move some energy and help your system return back to safe and connected, or like rebalance your nervous system to where you're not in fight, flight, freeze, or help you. That's kind of how I see it, is like, yeah, it just it helps make things a little easier for you to move forward, to like, okay, if you've I don't know, let's come up with an example of what somebody might want to resolve in their life. Like let's say um let's say I have a lifelong pattern of just saying yes to everything and everyone. Like, and that makes me really exhausted, right? Because I'm just constantly like running around helping everybody, but I never really make time for myself. Um, and there's a lot of reasons why I could be doing this, right? But I come to you and I'm like, I'm so bitter, people don't value me. But I tend to just overcommit all the time, and I'm always saying yes to people, and people just take advantage of me. Dana, help me. Like what would you say to me if you were my energetic healer or reader?
What came to mind, I think it's useful to speak to is there's so many different forms now of energy healings and
Right.
energy and people. And I think it's really useful. I mean, there's ways in with that, speaking to that, but it's also really, really, really important to get, I think, um, some sort of referrals, because I've encountered myself so many people, and I've so many people that have gotten in situations with energy healers that created a, I have your answers, you can only get your answers through me. And I mean, I experienced it myself, especially in my 20s. I shared that with you. So before I jump into saying how to, help someone that might be a people pleaser, what I would look at, I think it's really, really, really useful, because it's like, if somebody is listening to us right now on this podcast, be like, oh, cool. I want to go, find someone to do energy work. And it's like, well, what kind of, a lot of times, because um, an honest energy worker person will often be like, okay, we need to work together for like 6 sessions or 12 sessions. And I've watched this too, where that's really beautiful and they can start taking, steps, but it's very limited because they're not doing the work themselves. And somebody else is, can clear some of these little subconscious blocks, but depending on how they're going in, um, those blocks were formed at one point for an important reason. So little things can shift in certain situations, but the whole patterning is still going to be there. And that piece of, you got to keep going back to this person to have your sense of ease, relaxation, peace, creativity, financial prosperity, whatever someone's, going to, um, it can be a slippery slope.
Well, so that's, yeah, and that's what you were mentioning before, and I was going to touch on that too. It's just the power dynamic, and you were talking about if you rely on someone to help you walk for the rest of your life, then you'll always need them to walk, right? You won't be able to ever do it yourself. Um, and but I but that comes back to the question that I have is like, so maybe maybe I'd like to understand just further. So what what would be the helpful part of me hiring you as an energetic healer to help me with my people pleasing example issue, right? Like when we do the session together, what will you actually help me do through the energy work? Like how might things change for me? And what might you suggest to me that I go do besides the energy healing that we have? Like what will it allow me to do basically? What's the benefit?
With me as Dana Michelle Gillespie, who loves subconscious change work and is trauma informed and trained in, many, many, trauma modalities, unless someone is in a lot of pain and really stuck, I may suggest like, hey, why don't you experience, we might start with like a little aura healing where we just talk in colors, just so you can kind of get like, it can feel like um almost like a energy massage in a way, where you kind of feel that, fluffy, buoyant, there's more space, more ease, more flow. But if someone's specifically looking for, hey, I'm people pleasing, and it sounds, the way you describe it kind of sounded like the person is so frustrated, they're almost in a victim mode. So that's again a power struggle, right? Like, I'm the victim here, someone else is causing the problem. I probably would bring them over into doing subconscious change work for that specific piece, because if we're just doing energy work, I you would that's a very, very, very long road, I personally think, because that's a core piece. That person is probably, maybe, I mean, depending on how you look at it, that might be a mock-up for themselves in this lifetime, or let's not talk about past lives, so which say scientifically, like, hey, they probably had a parent or both parents were very um stuck within themselves, experienced a lot of trauma, and they really couldn't see their child, and their child was fearful for their own existence as an infant and knew the way to survive was to heal the parent. So they're fast forward in life as an adult, and they're still maybe operating from that way. That's not the only way that comes about, but that's very, very common. Or they learned, in order to be validated, I need to take care of other people. This is how I'm
Yeah.
accepted in life. So I personally, I like to do for results driven work, I'll go into core transformations. That's my happy place. That's where I find that type of results where um, it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if that
So,
helps, but
well, kind of. I guess maybe to kind of summarize what I hear you saying is that it opens up space. It helps you maybe see things more clearly. It helps you kind of flow. Um, Perhaps it kind of clears some denseness so that you can move forward a little bit easier. So
yeah.
that let's just say neither of us neither me and you ever came across Andreas NLP. We never learned anything like hypnosis or anything like that, right? We only had this energetic healing tool, right? So we do the energy work, we create space, we're able to see more clearly. Maybe we get some downloads or realizations, uh, right? From the information highway or from our higher selves, whatever you want to call it, right? From spirit. Okay, now I have more awareness about something. Something has been illuminated.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't recognize that there's this pattern between me doing this and this other thing that happened. I don't know. Maybe you realize some things. Um, okay, so now that I know this and I have the fog has been lifted, I don't know, the weight has been lifted, even if temporarily, I can take some steps. Maybe it'll be easier for me to say no to that person when I've always said yes to them. Or maybe it might be easier for me to say, you know, I don't know, do something that you've probably never done before. And the process of it feels easier because you've had that energy kind of lifted, or you've had that open extra clarity. Is that right? Like, is that kind of the
It's possible.
possible
It's
results?
possible. It's,
Okay.
speak from, it's interesting, your example, the people pleasing, the healer. I mean, that's a big part of, why I got into doing energy work. And it really wasn't until I got into receiving subconscious change work sessions that I really got to experience neutrality, where I didn't feel that I was the result of somebody else's actions or and I've witnessed, and as much as there's so much value in Lewis Boswick style energy work courses, I've witnessed countless people go through the entire program. They became teachers. They did everything. We're talking, this is like at least a 12-year program, at least to do, if not more. They were still stuck. They had to go work with a therapist. They were still stuck in so many of the similar patterns. They might have had better awareness, but it doesn't mean it wasn't still there. And they may have their own perception or oh, that's just the lot I have to live in life. But it's like, I look at, and sure, that could be a way, maybe that's okay with them, but I've met a lot of people that, go out and they do other stuff after they graduate. And again, energy work can be a slippery slope. And there's people that have said, oh, energy work's the end all be all. I think it's just one set of tools. It's not the end all be all, especially energy work. You could work with the body, but I feel like and a lot of people have said this about this, that it's not really accessing the body as well as like when we do core transformation and wholeness, that to me gets through everything. Might not get to the past lives, but it gets through the body and you really are able to have that embodied experience. If we're just going to go do somatic work, that doesn't connect to everything else. So it's an interesting piece.
Hmm.
And I don't want to say that just doing energy work because so much of it, and it goes back into like when we do work with core transformations and wholeness, we're getting such specific, minute, precise pieces. So it's like the puzzle pieces fit perfectly and the person can have it. So the healing really happens.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm just trying to come up with some additional like metaphors or examples. Like, I just got an idea. Could we say that energy work like optimizes your system or um helps you function more optimally. Like, could we also say that maybe getting an energy healing, maybe this is way too simplified, but is like cleaning your house. However, if you have, let's say I have a behavior of just throwing trash everywhere, and I don't know why, but I just don't ever clean my house, and that's my behavior. That's how I've lived for the last 20 years. Um, you can come over and clean my house, right? It's gonna look great for like 3 days, and then 2 weeks from now, it's just gonna be trashed again because that's how I live, right? Um, is it anything like that, or am I
A
totally
little bit. I think it's we can't really put a generality on that stuff.
okay?
Um, yeah, and you also like usually when you're doing, energy work, sometimes that the person they're just coming with their ego, right? So it's really hard to you able to shift a little bit of energy, but they may feel something, but they can't really have it. And so there's not, we can't really say this is what that is. And then, if you have someone that's not trained through the Lewis Boswick, or they are, and they're just channeling consciously or unconsciously, not great energies, and their whole thing is trying to um, be the one in charge, and somebody unknowingly goes and gets a healing from them or a reading, now that person, that healer, is kind of draining their energy on an unconscious level. As much as this sounds really woo-woo, it's a tricky, slippery slope. There's a lot of beauty in this world, but it's hard to say generalities. Um, and there can be specificities, but it just depends on, like, I'm about ready to start the one-to-one program of, this work. And it was always kind of considered the creme de la creme. And the one-to-one, which it just kind of tickles me because I love it, because it reminds me so much of, in certain ways, of core transformations, because the one-to-one, you work with your teacher, they tell you generally what you're going to go do, and you do it yourself. They just hold space. So and you go and you deprogram all of the teachers who have taught you. You deprogram pretty much everything possible out of your space so you can become you and connect to yourself and the God of your heart, and clear out, any past lives of power struggles, weird, this is very clairvoyant energy woo stuff, but past lives of gods and goddesses, and these perceptions of crazy, all sorts of energy that limited us. But you're getting to this space of you're doing the work yourself. So when we go into core transformation, like you and I as a practitioner, when we work with our client, we sit with them as a colleague and we're just guiding them. They're doing the work. And it's, to me, that's such a priceless piece, because they're taking the step themselves. They're getting their own answer. They're connecting to themselves. We're just here as their guide. Same thing with the one-to-one. I'm like, oh my God, I love this, because you're really becoming completely within yourself, your own energy, your own answers, your own connection to yourself and your higher self and all that is. And to me, that's the most priceless thing. I love it.
Hmm.
And everything else, maybe we could say, is steps to getting to that experience, even if it's, the negative Valdemar situation where you're going and getting healings and somebody's just vampiring the energy out and you have no idea. They're like, oh, you have to work with me continuously or you're gonna, die. We're gonna kill you. Like, I'm being very dramatic, right? But like, um,
Well, yeah, I mean, I imagine just like people that are in the change work, the subconscious change work world, I'm sure have power struggles. I'm sure energy healers also have power struggles, and are not in it because they want to, I don't know, guide people or help them find their own way, but rather they're trying to create some kind of codependent relationships. I'm sure that happens in pretty much every industry, right?
yeah.
So yeah, definitely something to watch out for. I'm just trying to figure out, like, it sounds like from our conversation so far, why somebody, a layperson, would want to go get an energy healing is to create some space to maybe be
Feel
able
like
to see things a
themselves.
little bit more clearly, right? Like lift the weight. I mean,
Yeah.
it, you know, if you've been running in one specific energy for a bit, right? For a while, I don't know, for years, for months, for weeks, the energetic healing might be able to move that energy and help you see from a different perspective or feel a little lighter so that you can make different decisions, so you can
Yeah.
feel better. Is that
I would
generally?
say, yeah, generally, yeah, it's shifting your energy so you can be in a different perspective and feel lighter. I generally, that's, generally, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And at the same time, you're saying sometimes sometimes people do end up clearing whatever it is that they came to you for. Like, let's say I had some pattern of doing something over and over again. I don't even know what it would be. Let's just say I yell at my kids. I don't even have kids, but I yell at my kids. I go to you. I get an energetic healing. All of a sudden, I stop yelling at my kids. I think that could happen. Like, that's possible for it to
It's
happen, right? That it changes my
possible.
behavior.
It's
Yeah,
possible. Anything's
sure.
possible.
Sure. And also what you're telling me is from all your experience of going to these schools and working with people and even yourself, that people experience a lot of temporary results. And then, I don't know, days, weeks, whatever later, it's like they've gone back to their old patterns. And what you're saying is that um, a lot of it is identity and just subconscious programming, right? So if they have certain beliefs that they live with for their whole life, or they've been a certain way for a long time, um, the energy work clears the path temporarily to help you see differently. However, it does not change your subconscious program necessarily. And most of the time it doesn't, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
And it's
sweet.
encouraged to go through those, become a healer, especially the Lewis style schools where it's structured for years and years, learning different things. So you could theoretically start clearing that programming because just receiving healing is, you're just getting a little bit of space and maybe, clearing some, but it's, again, it's just,
Aha.
yeah, it's
That's
just
what
a
you're
little bit.
saying. So you're saying like the layperson who goes and gets an energetic healing probably is not going into that journey long enough or deep enough in order to actually start maybe clearing more of these subconscious things. But it
Yeah.
is possible through the energetic work, which makes sense. Like I know people who
Yeah.
don't do like my spiritual teacher, I don't think she does any like subconscious change work per se. However, I know that she works pretty deeply in her own work that she does
Yeah.
to clear some of that stuff. So, I mean,
Well, you
I,
specifically will go in and we'll, start deprogramming the subconscious. We go in and my personal lived experience has been that when I went and received subconscious change works, that's when it really accelerated all my abilities with the other work. And I was able to be,
mm,
because so much of energy work is being in a state of neutrality. So if you are in fight or flight for whatever reason, and you're going through, like you're analyzing everything, or you're in a state of effort, you're not neutral. So it's going to be really challenging to clear things because you'll be stuck there. So I find them to benefit or complement each other for me. And I needed the subconscious change work to help me um, clear so much in that world. And yeah, it's not one or the other. And I think when people get into the whole like, oh, this is the supreme way of being, it's not very holistic lens, right? It's kind of almost another power struggle lens or polarity perspective, right? This or that, instead of like a little bit of maybe a little bit of everything.
yeah, yeah. I was also just thinking about like something popped into my brain about um, a bunch of other self-care that most of us invest into, or a lot of us invest into. Like I'm thinking for myself, I go get massages,
Mhm.
or I go get my hair done and stuff like that. But if I were to have something in my life, um, that's for example, I don't know, like let's say I take on a lot of responsibility in my life. This isn't a real example or anything. But let's say I'm hard on myself and I take a lot of responsibility in my life. And therefore, you know, I actually have upper back pain, or shoulder pain, right? The massage will help me feel better today after I get it, and maybe a few days later when, the work is really taken in. But then a week from now, I probably will have the pain again if I've done nothing to resolve maybe the cause, because we have a mind body connection. So if I've done nothing to resolve the responsibilities in my life or how I look at the world, I'll probably keep running the pattern of, oh, I still have pain, I still have pain. Um, Not saying that all the pain, anyway, I don't want to make any absolutes. I'm just saying there is a connection between our mind and our body. They are one, and there is often an emotional cause to a lot of our physical issues. And while practitioners can help us feel better, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're resolving the root cause or the pattern from where it originates. And maybe energy work is similar, and that you can feel better energetically. Someone can lift the weight or clear the fog or help you see more clearly temporarily. However, if you're not doing anything additional to resolve what's creating this fog or denseness to begin with, then um, you probably will keep running through the same pattern. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's interesting what had come to mind when you were sharing about that is I've had a good handful of clients separately all mention to me, they're like, Dana, the work you do is so profound. The core transformations in particular is so profound. And people had a hard time describing it to other people, but it created such a incredible feeling in their life, noticeable shifts and change. The issue was just no longer there. And they also felt like how beneficial it would be. They're like, you know what, I want to work with you. I want to work with a therapist, and I want to have like somebody else, like that holistic piece, because
Yeah.
you can, like for me, I was explaining with you a couple weeks ago, I was, experiencing what felt to me like very heavy kind of almost like a stuckness. And it was so painful in my space. I was like, I don't want to go inwards right now, because it's so painful in my awareness in my space. I just need to work with somebody who can say hello to my space and help me kind of separate from this energy. So then I can go in and start really clearing out where and how this is all, what is happening here, why it came about. And
Yeah.
so in that space, like people that I trust and I know who do, respectable energy work, I went and worked with. And then I can go in and, work with you with core transformations or wholeness, or, do some self sessions to help me, or just go run my energy because I could get back in my space fully without, falling over sideways. Um, it's so beautiful that way. And again, I feel that all this work works together so well. I'm getting a little sidetracked off of what you were asking, or speaking to, but it's so helpful, all of it together.
Yeah.
And I find, again, the big cheerleader for the subconscious change work, especially core transformations and wholeness, it's to me an accelerator. So instead of, I've shared with you over the years that I really, in hindsight, I would have loved and appreciated to have done like a full solid year of core transformations with a practitioner, receiving sessions, and then go in and start the clairvoyant program. That would
Mm.
have, I think it would have been a lot more fun. And it would have accelerated things instead of the way I went about it. Now I can speak from certainty of my lived experiences of 20 something years doing, because I wasn't just doing the clairvoyant program and the intuitive program and the transmedium program. I was also doing other things too, because I wasn't finding that deep sense of neutrality and space and ease. It took, and again, it didn't arrive until I had some subconscious change work healings.
So here's the interesting part about the subconscious change work that we've been talking about. And in the beginning of this video, I mentioned that when we say subconscious change work, me and you anyway, we're talking about core transformation and wholeness work
Yeah.
from Andreas NLP. And what's interesting about both of those processes is that, I mean, from my perspective, they're also partly energy work. Like you're
Yeah.
moving energy,
Yeah.
right? We're not calling it that.
Yeah.
Um, and when you're doing it, perhaps it feels, I mean, I was going to say it doesn't feel like energy work. However, it partly does, right? Because, like, let's say in core transformation, we're working with different aspects of ourselves, parts of ourselves, right? And in core transformation, we have the assumption that all of our parts meaning, so if I have a certain behavior or a thought or a feeling, right? So let's say I often feel angry at the world. I don't know, or I often feel angry at people who judge me, right? So there's a part of me that feels angry because I'm probably not feeling angry all the time. And there's also a part of me that doesn't want to feel angry. So I know that it's not all of me that feels this anger. So I could say, okay, part of me, that feels the anger, there's an assumption that it has a positive purpose, right? And so through the process of core transformation, we can find out what the positive purpose is by just asking this part of ourselves. We find it in our body or somewhere around us, first of all. And then we just kind of talk to it like a little character. And we're like, hey, part, thanks for being here. And what do you want? What do you want through generating this anger towards people who judge you? And you'll start to get responses from yourself or from your subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. And as we progress through the process, because we basically just say, okay, so you want, I don't know what it might say, I want acceptance. Okay, great. So thank you for telling me that you want acceptance. And what do you want that's even deeper? And as we ask these even deeper questions, we find out, well, usually the answers turn even more positive, if they weren't already positive to start with. And eventually, all of these parts reach a core state. I guess you could say it's a core desire, um, but it goes beyond desire. It's literally just a state of being, and the state of being can be something like being, or it could be like peace or tranquility. It could be unconditional love. It could be connection to source. And I think you and I both could agree. I mean, tell me, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it's been a visceral experience pretty much every single time when my inner parts have reached these core states. So I it's not a mental concept. It's something that I can feel in my body. So I feel, for example, in a very deep meditative state, or I feel so expansive. Um, like sometimes it just feels like my whole body is like 100 times the size of what it actually is. Very, very infrequently for me, I have some visuals as well. Like I remember having this experience where um, it, I think the core state was like connection to source, and I literally got the sense that I was like this tiny particle in vastness of space, and there was just like this giant sun somewhere in the distance or something, like radiating unconditional love to me. And as I talk about this, like, I mean, first of all, it still makes me teary. Um, and I can sense it in my body as I just talk about it. And I think that moves my energy. That has probably, just even thinking about the core state has shifted something in my energetic space. So yeah. So it's like, so the subconscious change work we're talking about is actually also partly energy work.
Mhm.
And with the wholeness work, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Like you sent me that podcast from one of your colleagues or teachers, um, how they teach, what they do when they teach beginner students, how to read energy. And you were telling me, you're like, oh my God, did you notice the connection to wholeness? I'm like, Yeah.
Yeah, I have not reached out to Gandelman to ask him about that, but I do know that he said he has his beginning t students read um, No Bad Parts, which is IFS, which is kind of, I call it like the beginning of parts work. It's kind of like it stays at the drama level, but it's not the exact right fit. But I don't know because when I went through intuitive training and clairvoyant training, that's not how we said hello to things. So,
Oh, okay.
so it was new to me, but I was like, this is cool because there doesn't, there's, everything's living, moving, and changing. So how we teach to somebody, something, it's expanding, and there's no one right answer. It's always, so it's alive, it's cool, and it's creative that way, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But with wholeness work, when um, one of, I think, the really beautiful benefits. So for everyone listening, Connie Ray Andreas created both core transformations and wholeness work. And wholeness work is kind of her main place of happiness and what she's developing and teaching. And it is suggested to start with core transformations because it's a very gentle, incredible process. It's very effective. It's been scientifically, studies have been done showing how effective it is. Dramatically over some of the top other therapies, how quickly it is. That being said, wholeness work was, she developed it herself for herself. And it goes even deeper. So she describes wholeness as going even deeper than massage. So you're getting to like kind of just the subtle, minute undercurrents of the energy in a very, we could say it's how do you say methodology? What's that word?
Methodology, yeah.
Methodical. Thank you.
Oh, methodical. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
methodical. That being said, you're kind of going into going into the field. You're going into the energetic field because I love, the expansive, mystical, but I also love the scientific, and it comes together so beautifully. So I see this with wholeness, and what David Gandelman was saying, that, he was teaching his students to, okay, the student says, I can't read energy. He's like, okay, cool. Well, what are you really seeing there? And the student would say something like, oh, I'm seeing black. I'm like, okay, well, or I'm not seeing nothing. He's like, okay, well, how big is that nothing? Oh, it's really big. And, what's the density of it? Like, oh, it's really cloudy and there's a gray to it. It's like, okay, you just read energy, so we can get really fixated or expect, energy to show up in like a movie in your mind, which it can eventually, especially when you enter more into neutrality, right? You let go of all
Mm.
of the have to, holding pressure, whatever, and you're just like, it's
And
beyond.
that's, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's beyond like, it's not indifferent. It's just so neutral. It's where you get into the field and everything opens up. So when you're in wholeness and you're doing a very similar thing where you're out of the analyzer, right? Energy work of, the Lewis Boswick style schools, it's an experience. Core transformations, subconscious change work, all this, it's an experience. We're getting out of the analyzer and actually stepping into the field, and things are shifting and moving. And I go back to where I see is we're just connecting back into ourself, into that state of all of our energies online so we can have a really incredible experience in these bodies in the here and now. Because when I, listen to or talk with spirits no longer in body, this is where the party's at, is coming into our body. And, so we play with the unconscious, subconscious, which you can also say is your aura or in your soul. And we're clearing out the programming and the energy and the past lives or whatever, so we can actually be here and be like, oh my God, I'm in nirvana. I feel like a million times bigger than like a sun, and my heart is so good, and my everything is just flowing and expansive, and I'm at peace, and I just want to be basking in this state of existence because there's no words. And I have receiving subconscious change work has gotten me so much deeper there, and opening up in the energy world gets, even more. It is so beneficial in both ways. And I love watching how they are both kind of so similar in so many ways, and it's so beautiful, and it's a journey. It's not like we're gonna, oh, we get here and we're done. You know, it's things more unfold, but the more we unfold, the more space we have for that eternal experience of love and gratitude, and that, you know, when everything starts feeling just vibrationally, like there's like a warm hug happening in your whole experience, and you're connected to all it is, and you're just like, oh my God, this feels incredible. And to have that experience in these bodies, and you feel it in your cells, and you feel it in your hips and your feet, and your, you know, the energy is shooting out of your head, it's just, for me anyways, priceless and amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, I was gonna say, I don't know what I was gonna say before, but what I want to say now is that when we were chatting about energy work and how someone could receive an energy healing, feel a little clearer, more open, lighter, but then things go back to the way they were, you know, the same patterns run again, right?
Yeah.
This these subconscious change work tools can help you um, address these patterns and help you stop the pattern. So stop the behavior from generating again. Because as I was describing these, for example, in core transformation, the core states of being, what happens when you experience these profound states, um, they're literally perception shifters. They expand your perception so that you can see from a different vantage point. So like, oh, actually, um, so let's say my core state is peace. When I'm experiencing peace as a way of being in an ongoing way, and I consider my previous need for acceptance, uh, the answer is usually it's not really that important, you know. When I have peace, acceptance from other people is not really important because I can be at peace. And this is like a it's like a subconscious shift that happens during the session and continues to integrate as you go to sleep, and your subconscious mind reorganizes things.
Program. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that your real life experience becomes, oh, when people judge me, I I have more space. I know within myself that I can be at peace. Um, and you no longer need to be angry or feel the need to be angry, really, or have any kind of maybe reaction to those people. You could just be like, oh, that's them and their experience and their opinions, right? That's a really, you know, small example of how it works for me usually. I pick something that I see in my real life experience. I write down my triggers. I'm like, oh, okay, felt jealous here, felt angry here, whatever. I write it down and then I bring it into my work, and I change my experience. So, and you know, I do receive energetic treatments on a consistent basis. And for me, it just makes things easier. So you know, I experience a lot less resistance with doing my inner work. I experience a lot more awareness a lot quicker too. Like I can just, even though I might react a certain way in a situation or my subconscious program kicks off, I'm much more aware of it quickly. And I attribute that to, you know, the energetic work and yeah, just the work that I've been doing too, because I now have a pattern of recognizing patterns too. So, but I think the energetic work helps make it easier, maybe
It
helps bring in
can.
compassion.
It can. It's not always a guarantee.
Yeah,
But you know, you're working with someone that you really trust and has healthy, respectful boundaries and isn't creating a power dynamic.
right.
It can be beautiful. Um, yeah.
So that's the other thing, maybe just to kind of wrap it up, right? If you're going to be doing energetic healings, um, to gain some clarity and space and to feel lighter, that's great. Um, maybe you just like doing it so you can, I don't know, feel good even temporarily. Okay, that's fine. I do things that help me feel good temporarily too, knowing that maybe, I'll return back to feeling however I was before. Um, but I would say, and I think you'd agree, from what we've talked about, just be careful about forming those dependent, codependent relationships, with really anybody, energy healers, anybody who basically tells you that you need me in order to heal, you need me in order to move forward in life, or
I can see you better than you can see yourself. And
yeah.
I mean, that's another piece. And, it's when you learn the basic rose, 90-minute rose reading, clairvoyant reading, Louise Boswick style is you learn about the programmability rose. And so you speak to that to the when a person comes in for a reading, you read their rose and you're like, we're gonna say hello to, there's usually a couple people on the line, or you're reading by yourself. And I'm saying hello to your programmability rose because we're not here to program you. And if you see that the person coming in has, or a gauge, you can look at it a gauge instead of a rose, but if they're very, your perception is they're very programmable, you're not going to say that much because you don't want them to keep referencing you, but you're also going to speak to this in the reading because part of that is not to create a codependent relationship. Because if I'm telling even someone like a little reading and I say, oh, you're showing me this and you're showing me this, they may continue to keep referencing me energetically on all their decisions moving forward for very long. That's where karma comes in. They're anchoring through me and they're referencing me, and it's hard. They're not making their own choices. And so with healings, it's why so much of that work also is encouraged to go in and learn the tools yourself. So you're
Mhm.
not referencing somebody else. And there's a saying, give a healing, get a healing. So when you go in and you go to those, schools, you have classmates. You're going to say hello to their space. They're going to say hello to your space. So you can, clear matching pictures, and start learning how to read and clear stuff that way. So when you do your morning and evening meditations and stuff, it's so much easier to clear. You get more neutrality, but you're not dependent on somebody else for your answers. And that's why the final program of that, all those different programs, is the one-to-one. You deprogram out all your teachers, all their teaching, so you are your own person with your own answers, having an experience here on earth connected to yourself and your heart. And it's pretty beautiful and amazing. And it reminds me so much of core transformations and the wholeness work, that level of
Yeah.
uh, equality.
Yeah, it reminds me of that too. One, because if you hire somebody to guide you through core transformation or wholeness, they are just guiding you, as in you are going to be doing the work. Your guide is basically just writing down your responses so that you don't have to track them in your brain. And um, they're telling you the next step. They're like, now step here, but not step here. Anyway, the process is the same for everybody, right? Your guide is not telling you anything that you couldn't do yourself, right? It's basically like a space holder and a note taker. um, and helping you if you have any challenges, right? Because sometimes in your own inner work, you might come across something that feels challenging and maybe you might want to give up, or maybe you're like, you know what? I don't know how to get out of this. And a lot of people do, they kind of just stop, right? But maybe if you're working with a guide, they can help you. Um, they could say like, okay, let's take a look at this for a moment and be with it for a second, right? So that you're not alone.
It's
Um,
having a, useful guide is so wonderful. And I know you and I have talked about this a lot outside of this podcast. But that piece when Connie Ray first met and worked with, what
Milton
is it?
Erickson.
Thank you. And she finally had this experience where what I heard her describe was she felt that he was almost, talking to her, gave her healing without even, talking with her, and she felt the
Hmm.
shift, and she felt great she described like a sense of like okayness for a couple of weeks, and then it disappeared. So that's such a great example of you could, be working with somebody who may have the tools to, I mean, I'd almost say that's a violation of going into somebody's space and giving, just affecting them on that level could be very violating on an energetic level, depending, there's a lot of different pieces on that. And that's why she teaches core transformation, where you're at a colleague level. So the, person receiving it is doing the work themselves. So it's lasting. And to me, that's, again, I already mentioned this, it's priceless. And when you were describing core transformation, that process, I think another piece that I really love of that work is when you enter your core state, or your system finds its own core state, right? The part has that deep healing that it really, really originally wanted it. God, who knows, 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever. And eventually, if there's time in the session, or maybe your session starts this way with your core state that you're working on, and then you bring it through essentially your ancestors. Oh my goodness. The shifts I have experienced myself and I've witnessed in clients of how deep the healing goes of them having that core state. And so it really brings in not only that core state into their everyday lives so many times, it it almost like reprograms the way your childhood, where so much more neutrality comes in. Like you have a memory of, yeah, this is what I experienced, this is what I had, and then my parents were like this, but it doesn't have those hooks in you anymore. You're just able to be neutral, and it's a neutral memory, and you can have more space for, if the core state was love, you can experience more love and have it for yourself, even if the people around you are acting crazy. And to me, I love that. That's a rare piece that
Yeah.
I have not actually really found anywhere else. Like the energy work I do, we do get to those things. There's the Your Own Birth program where you can go, but it's done differently. And I don't know. I love them both, and they both have incredible values, and they benefit each other really, really well.
Yeah.
And
I
learning
mean,
to
it's
do these things yourself is
right. Learning to do
so,
these things yourself, and or I guess
yeah.
being guided by someone who is truly a guide and not someone who is doing the stuff on your behalf all the time. Yeah, because then you could be giving your power away, and you could, I don't know, not be actually learning what you're meant to learn or experience what you're meant to experience. Um,
Or maybe that's their allotment on this lifetime, that they
or
are
that,
just going to be stuck in this codependent relationship for a few lifetimes with this person. And that might be their journey, and
or
that's their
that.
journey. But there's other ways. Like I feel like with everything, the expansiveness of life right now and things accelerating so quickly, it's a great time to be like, you know what? I'm tired of that power struggle. We've done this for too many lifetimes or whatever. I don't want to experience this in this life, this anymore. I'm done. I want to take a step for myself. Because the end result can feel phenomenal. It's just all
Yeah,
those things that we're all trying to achieve outside of ourselves, it's already within you. And it's just kind of you connecting back in and dissolving all of those blocks, keeping you from your own incredible, innate amazingness that feels priceless. It's there.
yeah. I've been contemplating this a lot lately, and that a big reason why I'm so committed to this work and why things like Taoism interest me is because um, the concept or idea or experience of limitlessness really interests me. I not to get too deep into my past, but I grew up in a culture that I would say was deeply um, controlling. I mean, I think a lot of people might have that experience of rules and regulations, and how you should be and how you shouldn't be. I think some people maybe grew up in a tougher environment than some. Um, but anyway, so this idea of really, really dissolving these ideas of um, good and bad or right and wrong, not because I don't want to have any morals or values or ethics or anything like that, but uh, because I don't want to feel limited or like I have to be one certain way or I can't do this because things are this way. Because what I've learned is that there's really not one way to define something. You know, it's all perception and there's limitless perception filters. Um, so this work, the subconscious change work and the energy work, they both are helping me towards that limitlessness. You know, I can feel a little more free every day without having to be so hard on myself that I did something wrong or I didn't do something enough or, um, you know, and as a result, I can feel happier, healthier, physically healthier. um, I don't know. A lot of people want to be happy and healthy. So just a few doors to consider, it sounds like, that seem to be helpful for a lot of people. For me
Yeah.
and you, for sure.
Yeah, well, it's our like life path. We love this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dana. I think this was a great conversation. I hope that whoever's listening got some ideas about, you know, what energy work is, why it might be helpful, and also maybe, you know, go research subconscious change work, specifically Andreas NLP, core transformation and wholeness work if you haven't yet, because it's a rabbit hole, but it's an incredible one, and it actually helps resolve these subconscious programs that help us or that keep us, you know, from moving forward from these patterns of feeling, behavior, thinking that seem to pop up due to things that we learned in childhood or that we learned through school or indoctrination or religion or wherever from our caretakers. It actually helps us have a different way of life, different way of behaving and reacting, responding to the world. So, yeah. All right. Well, hope you found this useful and we'll see you on a different talk or video.